So I'm defending event causal libertarian theory of free will, which says that the world is indeterminate, our mind is a causal process, but we also have free will. And the toughest objection toward this, against this, is the regress objection, that you get this infinite regress going backwards. So you can't be the cause of your choice. There will always be these previous causes that were the real causes. You can't be a detached cause, or you can't be the cause. Nothing can be the cause of itself. So how could it be right that humans can be product of evolution, rising from nature, which started as unfree and then suddenly became free and got free will? How could that happen gradually? That doesn't seem to make sense. But this is what we are going to try to defend in this video, because it's true that nothing can be the cause of itself, but the autobiographical self can be the cause of itself over time. It can shape itself and cause its own content over time. And then if we live in an indeterminacy world, as I think we do, then the self can be the cause both of choices and of itself. And this claim is what I'm going to try to defend in this video. So we'll start by a figure, and here we see that you have these desires, and you're born with some desires, natural desires to do this or that, makes us perform certain actions, which then gives us experiences that we can store in our autobiographical self. And as this happens, then the autobiographical self will start causing what the desires become, what actions we do, what experiences we get, and these will continue to influence and create certain specific content in the autobiographical self. So through this process, then, this circular process, the autobiographical self will both be the cause of its own content and the cause of choices over time. And it will be then in an indeterministic world, so it's not determined by this overall cause, what is happening. It's this process that determines who you turn out to be and what you choose to do. So for instance, maybe you had a natural desire to be skeptical towards strangers, and maybe you had racist parents who told you never to have any interaction with any people from Africa or something. But then suddenly, by chance, you meet someone from Africa and you experience that they are really nice persons, and you think that your parents were wrong and you want to continue meeting them, etc. So it's this process that was determined to happen that continues to form who you become and what you choose to do. You can still argue that, well, that's true, but this process still goes back in time, and you started with the self, and you started with some desires. So why should we think that you and the self is the cause? Well, my claim is that when the world is not determined, it is sometimes correct to select the autobiographical self as cause. But why is that true? Now we need what we learned in the videos on causation, and that when we select the cause, it's a matter of contrastivity. We put up contrasts to find out what the cause is. So let's take an example. If it's let's say it's a storm, and it's not determined to happen, it's random chances influence the weather, and suddenly there's a storm. In the storm, there's a boat that tips over, and a small child falls into the water and is about to drown, and screaming help, and you're standing and you see what happens. And so you're wondering whether to jump in and try to save this child or not. And your immediate desire is not to do it because the water is cold and the situation is scary, you might drown yourself, etc. But then there's a process going on in your mind. You think about what is right, what is expected, what people will think, and etc. And so you decide anyway to jump in and try to save this child. And we are wondering why. Why did you choose to jump into the water instead of not jumping into the water? We put up this contrast. This is what we want to understand. And then the reason or the cause is that it's your autobiographical self that caused you to jump in instead of not jumping in. You can say, well, didn't the storm cause it? No, it's not a storm as opposed to no storm that caused you to jump in, because even if there was a storm, it wasn't determined that you should jump in or not. So in the situation, what explains why you jumped into the water instead of not doing it is your autobiographical self. And that's why I say we can select this autobiographical self. But you can still say that, well, isn't this nevertheless a regress? Something built that self that caused you to jump into the water? Well, my claim is then that free will is built gradually, not from nothing. You have to have a starting point, as all theories of free will must have. But from this starting point, from these emotions and desires and reason that you were born with, you can start building free will gradually. So what I'm saying is that free will means inner directedness, being that yourself causes choices and that yourself causes itself. So you get a sort of inner directedness, which is what free will is. So when I use the term free will, I use it in the same sense as I would use autonomy or control. Because if you are to have control over your actions, then you must be causally linked to these actions. How can you have control if there's no link between you, if you're not connected to that which you are controlling? There needs to be a connection, and I'm saying that this connection is a causal connection, and I'm challenging those who disagree to say what could it be instead. If it's not a causal link, what is it then? I think that you can still object that, well, I accept that it's built gradually, but it is built gradually from a process that started before you were born. So you still haven't answered the regression problem. And I'm continuing to answer the regression problem now with this example. We can imagine this person, Willie, who's born with the normal emotions and desires, etc. And in the beginning, Willie is not free, does not have free will, and will just start doing what feels good, acting on desires. But this happens in an indeterministic world where experiences are stored, and so gradually Willie will be the cause of, or Willie's self will cause itself and cause the choices. And the question is, well, why? Why is it free will to start from such a starting point, which you didn't determine yourself? How can that be? How can that be to have free will? Well, I said that to have free will, we saw that in the definition of free will in the first video on chapter 8. It is to be the most important cause of your action, to be the source of your choice. And then the question is to ask, well, what more could it be than what I have described here? Because I think many people think, well, it must be this total sovereign ability to choose either this or that. You have this soul disconnected from the body that can override what the world and the influences are. But then the question is, well, where did this soul come from, and where did this soul get its criteria of choice from? Why would it be better to have such a detached soul? Why should that make you more free or independent? Because if you think of it, it wouldn't be free will if it was, for instance, an election, and you could easily, you could freely choose. I want to vote Republican, or I want to vote Libertarian. I want to have an equally strong desire to do either this or that, or I want to feel that pizza is my favorite, or I want to feel that fish is my favorite. If you were that sovereign in relation to your choices, then it would be random what you chose. This isn't what it is to have free will. You need to have reasons for wanting either this or that. So if it's a detached soul, you just get the homunculus problem. We ask, well, what's this soul? Why is that free? You need to build your criteria for choice, and you need to build this self from within, instead of having a soul just attached to your body. That wouldn't make you more free. So what the autobiographical self experienced as good, that is the criterion I suggest for building yourself from within. Yes, you didn't choose your own genes, you didn't choose your innate desires, etc. But given this starting point, which is roughly the same but also different for people, then they start building a self from within that can be free. And even if you want to say, well, you didn't determine everything, I'm saying it wouldn't be better that you determined everything. It wouldn't make you more free, and there is no alternative theory that makes you more free, because this soul, if it just had all the criteria for choice, then that wasn't your choice either. So the only way to give you this really free choice is that you start building it from within gradually. Even if you couldn't choose the starting point, that would be possible. It was the best potential and the best way of creating and building gradually a free will. That raises the question of whether this would be enough then, that we can really hold people responsible for their actions, etc. And that's what we will be talking about in the next video.